Hey guys, it's Caitlin, and this is all of the books that I read in March. This month I had 4 3-star reads, 2 4-star reads, and 2 5-star reads. I'm going to talk about the books in the order that I read them. If you want me to talk about them in order of my rankings, just leave a comment and let me know. I'm really interested to see in what you guys think in terms of formatting. The first book that I read this month was The House Guest by Hank Phillippi Ryan. This book follows Alyssa, who is in the middle of a messy divorce when she meets Bree at a bar, who is escaping her violent boyfriend. The two women strike up a friendship, and Alyssa allows Bree to stay in her guest house. The women bond and become fast friends, but their friendship is really tested when Bree gets some big news. And that's all I'm going to say about the plot. This book is really chaotic. There's a lot of twists. You really have to suspend your disbelief to kind of go with the story, but it's a lot of fun. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think this is one of those thrillers that I am not going to remember the details of. Even now, I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details, and I only read it a month ago. Definitely recommend it if you're interested. The next book that I read this month was The Other Guest by Helen Cooper. I read this book as part of my physical TBR challenge. This book follows a dual timeline. One timeline is following Leah, who is visiting her family at this resort that they own where her niece drowned last year. And the other timeline is following Joanna, who is in England and she meets a guy at a bar. And eventually those two timelines converge. This book was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, obviously. It just, it was all right. It was entertaining enough. I think if you're interested in it, I wouldn't discourage anybody from reading it, but I just think that it was a little lacking. It didn't have a lot of excitement going on. It was very easy to tell where it was going. I don't think that how the two cases are connected is supposed to be a surprise, but also there's very little mystery in this book. The next book I read was Small Game by Blair Braverman. I gave this book 3 stars. This book follows a group of people who have signed up for a survivalist reality TV show when something on the set goes wrong. That's kind of all the details you get. With a synopsis like that, you would think that this book would be interesting and thrilling, but it really isn't. They're really just sitting around doing nothing for most of the book, so that was kind of disappointing. And the ending was abysmal. The ending was nothing. It didn't have an ending. The next book I read this month was Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins. This was another book that I read as part of my physical TBR challenge. This book follows a journalist who's writing love, romance, fluff pieces, and she goes to the island where her parents met and have this big romantic story. And while she's there, she loses her luggage, and instead she gets another man's luggage, and she opens it up and is convinced that this man is her dream man based on what she sees in the luggage. He has her favorite book, he has, I forget other things, he has piano music of her favorite musician. So she is convinced that this man who has her luggage and she has his luggage, that he is her dream man, and she sets out on a mission to find him. Well, in looking for him, she kind of teams up with this local cabbie, and as they are looking for her luggage, her and this cab driver, his name is Ted, kind of end up developing feelings for one another. So she's still looking for this guy, she is falling for Ted, and she's having to decide which man she wants to be with. I gave this book 3 stars as well. It was entertaining. It was fine, but it just didn't really do anything special for me either. I had a lot of 3-star books this month. Yikes. The next book that I read was The Riding Retreat by Julia Bart, and this book was my favorite of the month by far. I gave this book 5 stars. This book follows Alex, who is an aspiring writer, and she gets to go to this exclusive writing retreat with 4 other authors, and the retreat is hosted by her favorite author of all time. All these authors are tasked with writing a book within 1 month, and whoever writes the best book is going to get $1 million book deal, so the stakes are really high. One of the other authors who she is there with is her ex-best friend, now enemy, Ren. And her and Ren have some weird history together. And as they are writing, some weird stuff starts to happen. Rosa Vallow, the author who is hosting this writing retreat, is very elusive. She's very odd. She's got very strange methods, and these methods start to affect the authors, and one girl goes missing. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I read it in one night. I could not go to sleep until I finished reading this book. I would recommend this book to anybody who likes thrillers. I know that not everybody has been giving this such great reviews. I think because the twists they feel a little far out there, but they were chaotic, and I love that. I love a chaotic thriller. The next book I read was Psycho by Robert Bloch. This book is a classic. It follows Norman Bates, who runs the Bates Motel with his mother, and a woman comes to stay at his hotel and she goes missing. And then this follows the investigation of her disappearance by her sister and her boyfriend slash fiance. It's unclear. This book was very famously made into a movie several decades ago, and so it has been spoiled by anyone and everyone. I think if I hadn't already known the twist going into this book, I would have absolutely hated the ending. The ending does not hold up today. Like, it utilizes a twist that I think a lot of people really, really hate now, and rightfully so. I am not a fan of it either, but because this book is so old and it's such a classic, people kind of give it a pass, and it was fine. One thing I did notice was how much they changed Norman in the movie from how he is in the book. In the movie, he is young and likable and charismatic, and that kind of helps him deflect suspicion from himself. But in the book, he's, older, he's heavier, he's, more of a slob. People don't think that he couldn't have done anything because he's so nice. They think that he's too timid to do anything. And I thought that was an interesting change. I think that the characterization in the movie is a little more interesting. I gave this book 3 stars. The next book I read was Tender as the Flesh. I gave this book 3.5 stars. This book follows Marcos, who works at a meat processing plant, except this book takes place in a world where a virus has ruined all of the animals that we typically eat, and people have very quickly transitioned into eating human meat. So the meat processing plant that he works at is processing humans. Marcos is also dealing with a lot of family stuff. His dad is dying. His wife has basically left him because they had a young child who passed away, and he's kind of going through all of these things when he is gifted a specimen from his supervisors at work. Marcus starts treating his gift as a human being, which you're not supposed to do. This book really highlights how horrible human beings can be when it benefits them to be horrible. There are lots of characters in this book, and you're supposed to hate all of them, basically. I was worried that this book was going to be really, really graphic in its descriptions of how the meat is processed. It was gross, but it was not as bad as I feared. Really, the horror in this book comes from how people just react and accept the fact that they're all eating humans, and how quickly they're able to adjust to this new life and not even consider the fact that these are other human beings and not livestock that they're eating. And the last book that I read this month was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This is my first Grady Hendrix book, and I really liked it. This book follows Louise, who is coming home because her parents have suddenly passed away, and she has to deal with the house and her brother Mark. Mark and Louise do not have a very good relationship, and this is the first time that they have seen each other in many years. And so tensions are high when they start cleaning out the house, getting it ready to sell it. Cleaning out this house is not an easy task because their mother was obsessed with puppets. She made puppets by hand every day. This house is full of hundreds of puppets. I thought puppets were scary before, but imagine going into a house with 100 puppets. That's horrifying. I love hauntings. I love haunted books. I love hauntings as a metaphor for family history, family drama that needs to be resolved. It is one of my favorite tropes. Knowing that, I knew that I was going to like this book. I just didn't know how much I was going to like it. I'm also realizing that I do really like horror comedy as a genre. I really like it in movies, but in books it's harder to know, it's harder to tell. This book gets a little sappy at the end, which is kind of expected in the like family haunting genre, because the resolution kind of hinges on the families getting their issues fixed. But I did like how everything wrapped up together. My only criticism with this book is that I think it's really long. There's a lot of things that happen in this book, and the hauntings go on for so long. Like, this book is over 400 pages. Overall, I gave it 4 stars. I think I'm leaning towards like 4.5, but I didn't quite like it enough to round it all the way up to 5 stars. And that is it for me, you guys. Let me know if there's any books that you think I should read next month. Let me know what you guys thought of any of these books that I read and talked about in the comments below. Let me know if there's any other kinds of videos you want to see, and thanks for watching.